Hello class, this is Mr. Lehman. I want to talk to you about the quiz we just took and set up some remediation problems. So right now if you're looking at this, that probably means you didn't do so well in your quiz. So we're going to take a look at part 1 and part 2, essentially the first page. And I'm going to work through the problems with you. So take a look at number 1, part 1. We have, if 10 pieces of rice weigh 0.22 grams, then how many pieces of rice are in a sealed plastic bag if the sample of rice inside that plastic bag weigh 50 grams? So anytime you have a problem like this, we're going to use the mass of a small number to figure out how many we have of a bigger quantity. And so we're going to set up a proportion. So our question says 10 pieces of rice. So 10 pieces of rice weigh 0.22 grams. It doesn't matter if you put rice on the bottom or grams on the bottom. This as long as you're consistent, so that both sides of your proportion had the same units for their denominators. So our question says, well, how many would weigh 50 grams? So because 0.22 grams is on the bottom on the left side, I need to make sure my mass of my second sample is on the bottom on the right side. And when I have it set up here, it's proportional. All I do is cross multiply and solve. And so I get 10 times 50 is equal to 0.22 times x. 10 times 50 is 500. So 500 is equal to 0.22 times x. To solve for x, I'm going to get x by itself. So I divide both sides by 0.22. 0.22 divided by 0.22 is 1. 1 times x is x. So I'm left with this. I take 500, I divide it by 0.22, and I get 2,273 grains of rice. So that was question 1. Question 2 is very similar here. Another proportion problem, this time using lentils, which we looked at in class in a purple cup. And so if you figure out that 5 lentils weigh a quarter of a gram, we set up a proportion with that. So 5 weighed 0.25. X lentils will weigh 100 grams. 5 weigh 0.25, x weighs 100, cross multiply and solve. 5 times 100 is 500. So 500 is equal to x times 0.25. Divide both sides by 0.25 to get x by itself. And so 500 divided by a quarter is equal to 2,000 lentils. 2,000 lentils would weigh 100 grams. Alright, there's our answer for part 1. Question 1, question 2. That's one thing you need to be able to do on the test. The reason why we're doing this is because we apply the same mathematical logic to solving for numbers of atoms. When we know how many grams of something we have, we can figure out how many atoms we have. Alright, part 2, question 3. For question 3, we're going to take and find the molar mass. The molar mass is simply how much a mole of something weighs. How much is a mole? A mole is equal to Avogadro's number. It's when you have this many, 602 sextillion of something. So if we have aluminum, how much does 1 mole of aluminum weigh? We simply look at the periodic table, and the periodic table tells us that aluminum weighs 26.98 grams. We just round to 2 decimal places. So 602 sextillion aluminum atoms weigh 26.98 grams. Just looking at the periodic table. Number 4, how much would 1 mole of carbon weigh? Carbon equals 12.01 grams per mole. We just look at the periodic table. If we have 602 sextillion carbon atoms, it's going to weigh 12.01 grams. We'll do one more. If we have 1 mole of sulfur, sulfur is number 16, 1 mole would weigh 32.07 grams per mole. So for every 602 sextillion sulfur atoms, it's going to weigh 32.07 grams. Alright, so calculating the molar mass of an element is pretty simple. If you check out the next part of the tutorial, we'll get into calculating the molar mass of compounds, which is a little trickier, so I encourage you to do that.